Hey guys, tonight we drift into the spice-swirled shadows of ancient Persia, where messages didn't arrive by ink and parchment alone, but sometimes floated on the breeze itself. You're standing in the heart of a candlelit bazaar, its stalls glowing like little fireflies. Lanterns sway gently overhead, and from somewhere behind a curtain, a lute hums out a slow, wistful tune. But what catches your attention isn't the music. It's the scent. Warm saffron, sweet rose water, a smoky trace of myrrh. It's all overwhelming, like wandering through a perfume shop after a dizzying carousel ride. But here, that scent is more than ambience. It's language, the signal. It's espionage, romance, betrayal delivered one whiff at a time. The air around you, thick with the breath of roses and sandalwood, carries more than comfort, carries secrets. So, before you get comfortable, take a moment to like the video and subscribe, but only if you genuinely enjoy what I do here. And hey, drop your location and what time you're tuning in. Let's see who else is drifting off across the globe tonight. Now, dim the lights, turn on a fan for that soft background hum, and let's ease into tonight's journey together. You trudge slowly through a stone alleyway, your sandals soft against the sand-dusted path. Each turn of the street greets you with a new burst of aroma. Crushed cardamom here, a whisper of cinnamon there. You pass a cluster of camels dozing and snorting near a merchant stall. They don't seem to mind the heavy scent in the air. You, on the other hand, can't decide if it's relaxing or vaguely suspicious. Under the awning of one quiet shop, a merchant meets your gaze. His eyes twinkle like someone who knows something. His hands are busy grinding petals with a bronze pestle, but his voice is low and careful. "You want to know what she meant by that jasmine oil?" he asks, and you pause. "What jasmine oil?" He smiles. "It wasn't for beauty. It was for warning." He pulls a tiny vial from behind a curtain. The scent is light, gentle, floral, and apparently meaningful. Here in ancient Persia, especially during the Achaemenid era, around the 5th century BCE, perfume wasn't just a luxury. It was a subtle weapon, a code system, a way of passing messages in plain smell. Persia, unlike many of its neighboring kingdoms, had an obsession with fragrance that was deeply embedded in its religion, daily rituals, and social etiquette. Zoroastrian fire temples burned sacred herbs, believed to purify not only the air but the soul. Even the dead were anointed with aromatic oils and sent to the afterlife, smelling like a bouquet from the gods. To not smell fragrant was, to put it lightly, social suicide. Of course, you wouldn't survive a day here. Not because it's dangerous, well, maybe a little, but because you'd accidentally wear the wrong perfume and signal a marriage proposal to a horse trainer. Social rules ran deep, and scent, as it turns out, was just another dialect you'd need to learn fast. But what if you misinterpreted a scent and found yourself in a dangerous situation? The potential for miscommunication was a constant threat. Historians still debate the structure of this perfume language. Is it a structured codebook or a more informal system passed down through merchant gossip and kitchen table rumors? What's clear is that fragrance held meaning, and the intrigue of this ancient communication system is truly fascinating. Take the royal court, for instance. Those lounging nobles in embroidered robes didn't just bathe in expensive oils to show off. No, sometimes the layering of one scent over another, perhaps ambergris with a whisper of pine, could mean the noble was being watched or, worse, bribed. The queen's handmaidens, it said, would dab different oils into her silken head wraps to indicate whether the king was in a good mood or had just thrown a silver cup at the cat. Some archaeological finds suggest that perfume bottles were labeled in cuneiform, not only with ingredients but also occasions, for victory, for mourning, and for caution. This was a complex library of feelings, a smell-based etiquette system that navigating would have required a tutor. Just imagine having to sniff your way through a royal dinner without accidentally offending someone with the wrong dash of cassia. It's imposing. You follow the merchant deeper into his stall. Shelves rise around you like perfume towers. There's orris root ground into powder, a spicy little jar of safflower oil, and something dark and sludgy labeled stag musk. You decide not to ask. He shows you a narrow pipe, bronze, beautifully etched. This, he says, was used to channel scented steam into silk curtains. The scent would change depending on who was entering the room. Oh yes, even the drapes had opinions. One popular theory among modern researchers is that the Persians used perfume as a means of sending long-distance messages, particularly between royal households or military encampments. Since written messages could be intercepted, a perfumed object, a sash, a glove, a piece of dried fruit, might carry information if you knew what to sniff for. It wasn't foolproof, of course. A particularly stuffy-nosed courier could mess everything up. But the subtlety of this method is genuinely intriguing. There's even fringe speculation, though still hotly debated, that certain perfumes were used during nighttime rituals not for worship but for private strategy meetings. The presence of cinnamon and vetiver in ceremonial incense may allegedly indicate that a war council was being held, or maybe it just smelled nice and kept the bugs away. The records aren't exactly airtight. You step outside again. The bazaar now feels like a maze of meaning. The roasted nuts, dusty with clove. The cloth seller's tent, rich with civet musk. Everywhere another sentence, another story, another secret. And now you wonder, was that hint of rose on your sleeve truly from the air? Or did someone brush past you on purpose? You take one last breath, slow and thoughtful, before turning the corner toward the palace steps. A breeze follows you, warm and spicy. Maybe it's just the desert air. Or it's a message you haven't yet learned to read. You stand now just outside the outer walls of the royal palace, an ivory-clad structure that rises like a mirage, its walls humming gently with heat and secrets. As you step inside, a soft hush settles over everything. There's no shouting here, no market haggling. Only murmurs. And the air, oh, the air is perfumed with layers so thick you could almost chew on them. A palace attendant passes by, trailing a waft of orange blossom. Another glides close, carrying scrolls and the unmistakable scent of frankincense. Neither glances at you, but both leave clues. Not words, but markers, signals. You get the sense that in this place no one says exactly what they mean. They scent it instead. Inside the grand hall, nobles recline on cushioned benches. Gold glints from arm cuffs and belt fastenings. A slow breeze rustles the silk curtains, drawing in that blend of palace smells. Polished cedar, lavender oils, and something darker beneath, like ancient myrrh mixed with ambition. You take a seat beside a young courtier who's fanning himself lazily, his robes gleaming with embroidery and, yes, dabs of perfume. You catch whiffs of saffron and honey, then a sharper note of camphor tucked behind his ear. You lean a little closer, pretending to admire his fan. "Don't stare so hard," he mutters without looking at you. "It's only camphor. I'm signaling my loyalty." Of course, just your standard olfactory oath of allegiance. In court life, everyone is watching, but more importantly, everyone is sniffing. The Achaemenid elite, who ruled over this patchwork empire from roughly 550 to 330 BCE, were masterful at crafting layers of protocol so complex that outsiders rarely understood what was happening. On the surface, there were rules. Stand here, bow there, always smile. But underneath that was a rich culture of coded behaviors. Gesture, gaze, and, yes, fragrance. Your seatmate explains, with a chuckle, that rosewater usually meant friendliness, but 2 applications meant flirtation. Musk meant you were seeking favor. And cinnamon? That was reserved for moments when one intended to speak frankly, or deliver bad news. These scent codes, a fascinating aspect of palace life, add a layer of intrigue to the court's interactions. Historians still argue whether these scent codes were widely understood or only practiced by a tightly knit circle of educated elites. Some believe the meanings were personal, even poetic, whispers between lovers, or subtle jabs at political rivals. Others insist there was an actual system in place, a kind of perfumed Morse code passed along through generations of scribes and servants. The complexity of this communication system is awe-inspiring. You sit a little straighter as the queen enters. She glides in a mist of sandalwood and narrowly so dense you nearly lose your balance. Her head wrap is wound tightly, jeweled pins gleaming, and no fewer than 3 distinct perfumes cling to her silk sleeves. One courtier whispers, "Warning, seduction, warning again." The queen is multitasking. At the far end of the hall, a pair of advisors are locked in what looks like an argument, but their tones are gentle, their hands still. You only notice the tension by the smells that ripple between them. One emits an overpowering aroma of juniper, the other is dry pepper and bitter herbs. It's not just about making an impression. It's about broadcasting mood, intention, and alliances, all without moving your lips. Later, you pass through a narrower chamber. This is the inner court, less ceremonial and more functional, though no less fragrant. Here, servants sweep not just dirt but aroma trails. The floor is scented with crushed bay leaves. The oil lamps emit a soft lemongrass vapor. And then you pass a door. It's small, wooden, and unmarked. But behind it, your nose tells you something is happening. A strange mix, spikenard, cloves, and smoke. It's not the combination you'd expect at this hour. You gently push it open, peering inside. It's a small study, empty except for a folded note on the table, and the delicate scent of cedarwood and ash clinging to its edges. You step back carefully. That your courtier friend told you earlier is often the marker of a confidential message. Cedar meant caution. Ash meant it had already been acted on. You're starting to get the hang of this. Of course, not all courtiers relied solely on scent. There were slip-ups, too. One over-perfumed emissary from a northern province once arrived at court reeking of 12 different oils. He collapsed mid-ceremony, not from intrigue but from heatstroke and what must have been absolute olfactory overload. The scent lingered in the hall for days, and so did the jokes. You head toward the palace's northern balcony, where the air clears slightly. Below, in the courtyard, a group of younger nobles practice diplomatic greetings under the watchful eye of an instructor. You watch as they bow, turn, step back, and subtly lift their sleeves, letting their respective scents waft toward one another in a bizarre but oddly graceful dance of gesture and aroma. It's absurdly formal, almost funny, but undeniably elegant. It's absurdly formal. It's almost funny, but it's also how empires communicated when words became too dangerous. The truth is, in the political powder keg of an empire stretching from the Indus River to the Aegean Sea, silence could be golden and smell its secret language. As the sun sinks, painting the palace walls a soft amber, the scents begin to shift. Evening perfumes rise, jasmine, olive oil, sweet resins. The chatter lowers, the music dims, and everyone prepares for the quiet show of meaning by fragrance that comes with dusk. You lean on the marble railing and inhale deeply. This place hums with stories, most of them unsaid. But if you've got a nose for it, you might pick up the next clue. Night falls gently over Persepolis, wrapping the palace in long shadows and cooler air. The stone walls no longer radiate heat. Instead, they hold it quietly, like a memory. Somewhere nearby, a fountain trickles. Moths tap against torchlight. And here on the eastern terrace, the perfumes begin to shift again. As your courtier guide explains, this is the intriguing concept of scent curfew. Although not officially declared, it was a universally understood practice. At sunset, the heavy resins and bold oils would fade out, replaced by soft florals and sleep-forward herbs. Chamomile, myrtle, maybe a wisp of lavender if you were feeling indulgent. You sit cross-legged on a woven mat beside a shallow dish of glowing coals. A servant wafts a fan gently, pushing the sweet smoke of crushed violets your way. Around you, nobles remove their outer cloaks, unwind their scented turbans, and lounge in quiet clusters. It's a different court now, less scheming, more sighing. This is the hour of whispers and unwinding. Except, of course, for the elite who use the quiet hours to plot. As you breathe in the night scents, you notice a delicate, woody note floating past. Not from the coals, not from the flowers. You scan the terrace and spot a thin ribbon tied to the ankle of a passing servant. It's soaked in oil, something subtle like Palo Santo. A signal? A message? You're starting to feel like a suspicious person yourself, caught up in the intrigue of the court. Back in the day, royal operatives, yes, Persia had them, relied on scent not just to communicate but to monitor. Imagine you're a palace spy. You'd receive a sash soaked in rose and cloves. That meant, tonight, listen closely. If the sash was clove-free, relax. It's just dinner and poetry recitations. Historians still debate whether these messages were as structured as spycraft suggests or if they were more intuitive, a cultural fluency learned, like dialects, in a multilingual empire. But tablets recovered near the city of Susa suggest that some perfumers were, shall we say, unusually well paid. Coincidence? Or hush money for a trade of secrets in scent? You lean back on your mat, fanning yourself lazily as two handmaidens approach the queen's quarters. They wear matching robes but carry two different perfumes. One a powdery iris, the other sharp with black cumin. The guard lets only one through. Curious. A nearby noble chuckles quietly. Wrong smell. Wrong day. Even service rotations could be determined by scent. The queen's attendants wore fragrance not to please the senses, but to match specific tasks. Lemongrass meant she needed space. Basil suggested bringing tea. A blend of mint and neroli? Bath time. And that, of course, brings you to bathing rituals, a central part of Persian hygiene and an absolute festival of fragrance. The next morning, you're led to the palace hammam, a luxurious, steamy chamber carved from marble and warmed with underground fire channels. Here, perfumes are more than just accessories. They're treatments, politics, and even a little magic. You're stripped down, modestly of course, draped in a linen cloth, and introduced to a schedule that reads more like a perfume-tasting menu than a bath. First, a cleanse with soap made from crushed myrtle and olive oil. Then, a scrub of almond paste. After that, a splash of rosewater, no, not for the face, for the feet. That's where the insult hides. Finally, a complete rinse is performed with a blend of warm water and saffron poured from a copper jug that smells like it holds ancient sunlight. The hammam isn't just for cleansing. It's a quiet meeting place, a spot where court figures let their guard down, if only slightly. Here, people talk with fewer words and more scent. One noblewoman applies a bit of orange peel to her palms. Another chooses time. Small choices, subtle ones, but they speak volumes. An accidental blend might be seen as confusing or even duplicitous. You make a mental note. Stick with lavender next time. Everyone likes lavender. You sit quietly as a young boy fan the air with eucalyptus branches. He's humming something under his breath. A lullaby or a warning, you're not sure which. The hammam's domed ceiling catches the sound and echoes it back in a soothing hum. It's all surprisingly serene, until a commotion breaks out near the oil trays. Someone has used a scent reserved for royalty. It's a simple blend, cardamom and saffron, but it's known across the palace as King's Air. To wear it without permission. It's not life-threatening exactly, but it's a social disaster. It's a clear violation of the unspoken rules of the court, a breach of the social hierarchy. Your invitations might dry up, and your standing in the court could be irreparably damaged. Still, the wrong scent at the wrong time wasn't always innocent. In rare cases, it could be a power play. It's a way to hint at ambition, to signal that you see yourself climbing the velvet ladder of the court's hierarchy. A whisper that maybe, just maybe, you're not content with your current station. One fringe theory among researchers suggests that this very tactic triggered a minor court scandal during the reign of Darius II. A perfume known as Spring Dusk, a blend of cedar and lily, was reportedly worn by two people at the same feast, the queen and her youngest brother. Whether it was a flirtation, a dare, or a challenge to her power, no one knows for sure. However, the next day, the brother left for an extended tour of the eastern provinces, a move widely interpreted as a result of the scandal. You dry off, wrapped in a robe that smells faintly of verbena. The hammam fades behind you as the morning sun filters through woven shades. Another day begins, and with it, another layer of scent-based storytelling. No proclamations, no declarations. Just a breeze, a bloom, a bottle, and a meaning you might only catch if you're paying attention. And just like that, the game begins again. You're roused early the next morning by a scent so strong it practically climbs into your bed. Not smoke, not flowers, but vinegar and crushed mint. You blink groggily and notice a servant holding a small clay dish near your sleeping mat. "Time to wake up," she says, placing it near your nose with the dispassion of someone who's done this far too many times. In the Persian court, mornings begin with the smell. Before your feet hit the floor, someone's already burning sage in the hallway to signal that breakfast preparations have begun. It's not just for ambience. In these sprawling palace corridors, where news travels faster than people, scent acts like an intercom system. Mint and vinegar mean rise. Cinnamon and fig? A visitor's on their way. Myrrh mixed with barley? Delay everything. There's a kitchen fire. The use of scent for scheduling daily routines seems dramatic. But in a palace where walls are thick, doors are always closed, and privacy is wrapped tighter than a royal turban, olfactory signals do what words can't. Move silently, linger long enough to be noticed, and fade before they can be traced. You make your way to the morning hall, a quieter, sun-drenched space filled with reed blinds and silk cushions. A table is laid out with apricots, soft cheese, flatbread, and, unexpectedly, tiny dishes of rose syrup nuts, a perfumed breakfast, of course. You're handed a cup of spiced milk infused with cardamom and saffron. The scent curls into your nose before the flavor even touches your tongue. And then you see it, a small wooden token, no bigger than your thumb, sitting on your tray. It's carved with a flower, the Persian iris, and doused with a blend of sandalwood and clove. The message is clear. Someone wants a word with you after breakfast. You don't know who or why, but you do know the rules. You must arrive carrying the token and wearing no conflicting fragrance. This is not just any breakfast. This is scent diplomacy in action. Across the room, another noble is sniffing his wine with more interest than is strictly polite. The vintner has added orange blossom to the cask, an unusual choice. He raises his eyebrow in curiosity. "For sleep," he mutters, "or for secrets." This isn't just poetic musing. Among ancient Persians, the idea that different scents could alter your mood or prepare you for specific conversations was taken very seriously. Lavender soothed the nerves. Rose boosted confidence. Frankincense? That was for grief. You could essentially curate your emotional weather forecast through smell alone. Historians still debate whether the elite understood the chemical or purely psychological effects of fragrance. Some argue that temple perfumers doubled as early neurologists, experts in how scent could influence focus, memory, and even loyalty. Others insist it was more mystical, tied to Zoroastrian beliefs about purity and spiritual clarity. The truth probably lies somewhere in between, a hazy, fragrant middle ground. You follow the token's trail to a shaded courtyard. It's early enough that shadows still stretch long and lazy across the tiles. There, sitting beneath a pomegranate tree, is a middle-aged woman with ink-stained fingers and a bottle of something pale and floral beside her. She smiles, gestures for you to sit, and hands you a small bundle wrapped in silk. Inside, a letter written in Elamite script. You can't read it, but the fabric smells like hyacinth and bay leaf, your cue that the message concerns travel. Perhaps even danger. You glance at her, and she nods slowly, confirming your suspicion. Here, scent isn't just a signal. There's a second layer of meaning, a scent subtext. That afternoon, you step into the Royal Perfumer's workshop, a place where the air is thick with the scent of a dozen arguments at once. Spices and oils cover every surface. Shelves bend under the weight of ingredients. Dried citrus peels, crushed petals, powdered resins, and dozens of tiny amphorae labeled in precise script. He dabs a liquid onto a square of linen and waves it toward your face. "Guess," he says, a playful twinkle in his eye. You inhale. Something familiar. Sweet but with an edge. Fig leaf? Olive blossom? He laughs. It's called Say, Shadow, worn only by envoys who deliver bad news. He turns serious. The nose tells people what the tongue cannot risk. As you explore his space, you learn about scent layering, the deliberate stacking of fragrances to create complex signals. A base of musk meant importance. Add sandalwood, and it implied religious significance. Drop in a hint of citrus, now you're rushing or worse, panicked. Layering was an art. Say too much and your message becomes a confused cloud. Say too little and no one notices you at all. The perfumer shows you a curious item, an ink pen with a hollow shaft, filled with scented oil. When writing a note, you could simultaneously scent the scroll, embedding emotional context directly into the message. Romantic letters were obvious, but political notes? Subtle. A trace of smoke hinted at urgency. Myrrh hinted at bribery. Mint meant, for your eyes only. This scent-scribing wasn't limited to humans, either. Back at the palace stables, handlers would rub special oil blends into the manes of horses. This helped identify their origin, temperament, or purpose. War horses smelled of cedar and iron-rich herbs. Parade horses, jasmine and apple. Messenger horses bore a curious blend of basil and lime. Sharp, bright, impossible to mistake. Later that evening, as you cross a hallway filled with torchlight and the smell of melting beeswax, you notice something odd. A soldier, standing stiff near a curtain, smells faintly of clove and bitter almond. You pause. Almond was often used to mark someone who couldn't be trusted, or someone playing a role. Was it on purpose, or was he wearing yesterday's tunic? You decide not to linger, because here in this palace, the fragrance speaks loudly, and you're still learning the language. You're getting better at this. By now, you no longer flinch when someone wafts something toward your face with no explanation. You've learned to breathe shallowly around cinnamon, too strong in the midday sun, and to walk briskly past the gardens when the wind carries valerian root, which always makes you sleepy and vaguely philosophical. And today, you've been invited somewhere intriguingly mysterious. The Archive of Scents. It sounds like something invented by a poet or a con artist. But in ancient Persia, scent wasn't just for immediate use. It was recorded, referenced, and preserved. The idea that a moment could be bottled and stored wasn't a metaphor. It was quite literal. The archive is deep within the administrative wing of the palace, behind stone walls that stay cool even during the desert heat. Your guide, a silent young scribe with ink smudges on his cuffs, hands you a wax-sealed bundle. It smells like papyrus and burnt orange. Open it inside, he murmurs. The room you enter feels more like a temple than a library. Extended stone shelves hold rows of stoppered jars, tiny fabric bundles, and tablets etched with scent recipes. There are scrolls, too, some of them scrawled with notes on how specific aromas affected different dignitaries. Minister of Grain dislikes chamomile, too nostalgic. General Ardashir weeps at violet, only use if desperate. You chuckle. This is the science of scent psychology centuries before it had a name. Historians still debate the extent to which this archive was formal, adding an element of intrigue to your visit. Some say it was simply a perfumer's collection. Others claim it operated like a full bureau, with clerks recording which aromas were used at treaties, funerals, or royal births. A few fringe scholars even suggest that memory scents were created deliberately, crafted blends designed to trigger recollection in witnesses or rulers who needed to be nudged gently toward the right decision. You dip your fingers into a jar labeled Giovanni, which means youth. The smell is soft, milk, fig, a hint of almond, a birthday blend. Maybe your mind drifts to your childhood. It is remarkable how quickly scent can transport you through time. The scribe beckons you toward a stone tablet displayed behind a protective glass panel. It's inscribed not with words but with dots and short lines, something like musical notation. Perfume code, he explains. Each mark means a different base. It was used for royal recipes. You lean closer. The bottom corner is chipped. The meaning of two of the symbols has been lost to time. And that's when the scribe hands you a curious object. A narrow cylinder, like a flute, with holes down the side and a hollow middle lined with clay. Smell it, he says. You do. It's faint but still present. A cool, minty trace with a resinous undertone. It's an olfactory message, he adds, breathed into the pipe, sealed, then opened days later to decode. Your eyebrows rise in amazement. Could this have been how messages were sent across distances without writing? Instead of reading a letter, you smelled the message. Of course, there are skeptics. Some researchers believe these pipes were simply incense holders or musical flutes that inadvertently collected perfume residue over time. But others point to letters referencing breath voices, ephemeral signals meant to be caught by scent, not sight. You're shown another artifact, a carved wooden mask with a hollow chamber at the nose. It's lined with crushed petals, now dried to dust, and the remains of honey wax. These scent masks were reportedly worn during high-risk meetings, either to send subtle warnings or to test the loyalty of those in attendance. If someone recoiled at the wrong fragrance, noted and perhaps removed, it's all incredibly theatrical and deeply Persian. This is a culture where aesthetics weren't frivolous, they were functional. Art served to order, beauty conveyed power, and scent moved faster than speech. Back outside, you follow the scribe to a private garden. He doesn't speak but gestures toward a row of blooming shrubs. You recognize some jasmine, marjoram, roses, but others are new. One in particular catches your attention. Dark green leaves with an odd, almost metallic aroma. Sage shrub, he says, used only in prophecies. That night, you dine in a smaller hall filled with lesser nobles and visiting scholars. The air smells like grilled lamb and lentils, but also a strange floral you can't place. One of the scholars leans toward you and whispers, "Lilac on the walls. Not for perfume, for memory." Court painters used scented oils in their pigments. When a memory needed to be preserved, like a royal marriage or a diplomatic agreement, it wasn't just painted. It was scented into the plaster, seeping into the room like a ghost that never quite left. You suddenly remember a hallway you passed earlier that smelled like saffron and sadness. A treaty room? As the evening drifts on, you start to realize how deeply scent was woven into every layer of life here. Not just for pleasure, not just for hygiene, but for information. It was emotional shorthand, a whisper in the air, a kind of language that couldn't be misquoted, only misunderstood. You wonder, what would your scent archive hold? What 3 notes would define you? And who would decode them 100 years from now? The torchlight flickers. Outside, the air shifts. Cooler now, the breeze scented with the last blooms of the evening. You close your eyes and breathe deeply, no longer just a visitor but a listener. And the perfume speaks. It's late, technically tomorrow, but no one's asleep yet. Persian palaces didn't go quiet with the setting sun. The night was often the most active time, especially in the warmer months. The breeze picked up, the air cooled, and the world began to smell different. Thicker, softer, like the underside of a silk pillow warmed by skin. You wander toward the moon courtyard, a space named not for its shape, but because it's only used after dark. Lanterns hang like sleepy stars from slender poles. Beneath your feet, crushed petals have been scattered to mask the scent of sand and foot traffic. You can't tell what kind of flowers they were. Lilies? Maybe peonies. It's a gentle perfume, something chosen not to overwhelm the other layers of the night. You sit not because you're tired, but because everyone else is. Soft cushions, a low marble platform, and bowls of spiced pistachios. There was no talking, no music, just the sound of fabric shifting and oil lamps hissing. And then the performance begins, not with a drum, but with a puff of smoke. A man steps into the circle carrying a small brazier. He waves a fan and releases a swirl of vapor that smells like cedar and vinegar, bright, sharp, and unmistakably serious. This isn't entertainment. It's a demonstration. The performer is a nashgar, a scent teller. He doesn't speak. He doesn't act. He smells. His enigmatic presence and the anticipation of his next move hold the audience in rapt attention, each of us eager to decipher the secrets hidden within the swirling vapors. The audience watches as he lifts a vial, opens it, and pours a few drops onto a piece of paper, which he folds and fans toward different nobles. The scents change quickly, rose to myrrh to an odd leathery smell with a sweet finish. You, too, are part of this olfactory journey. Each scent a whisper of a story, a hint of an emotion. You don't know the whole language yet, but you catch hints. Joy, regret, maybe longing. The crowd sighs. Someone quietly cries. The man never says a word. Historians still argue whether nashgars were truly understood or indulged. Were they decoding royal history through fragrance? Or are they just extremely well-paid illusionists with a good nose for drama? Regardless, their role in Persian culture is undeniable. Their scents are a living record of the past. Either way, you're impressed. As the smoke clears, you notice another figure approach. A woman with a lacquered box and a stern expression. She opens the lid to reveal his ribbons. They're called ganpatas, scent strips. Each ribbon, a tantalizing mystery waiting to be unraveled, has been soaked in a unique perfume and dried in the shade, holding within it a story as rich and complex as the scrolls that hold ink. Each ribbon has been soaked in a unique perfume and dried in the shade. They hold stories the way scrolls hold ink. You take one offered to you. It's a pale green color, tied with golden thread. The smell hits you instantly. Wet stone, fig skin, and just a whisper of something minty. You're told it represents a river journey, something from decades ago. You press the ribbon to your nose again and feel yourself leaning into the image. The power of scent to transport you back in time is undeniable. It's not just a ribbon. It's a time machine, whisking you away to a riverbank from long ago. It's not magic. It's memory engineering. The power of scent to transport you back in time and evoke memories long forgotten is a testament to its profound influence on our perception of the world. Before you can ask more, someone else has taken the box and passed it on. A new ribbon makes the rounds. This one smells of goat hair, dried lavender, and heated copper. The scholars murmur, "That's the siege blend," someone says, nodding somberly. You shift in your seat. Even trauma had its signature. It had to be. In a culture that relied so heavily on the nose, it makes sense that even war would be documented this way. Not with paintings of suffering or lists of casualties, but with a scent that lived in the folds of cloth and the cracks of stone walls. Later that night, you lie in your chambers, staring at the ceiling beams. You can still smell the ribbons on your fingertips, and something about that sits heavily in your chest. Was this why the Persians were so obsessed with controlling the aroma of their environment? Because scent, more than sight or sound, could sneak past defenses? Could it make you feel something without your permission? You think of your world, so full of artificial smells, scrubbed air, and plug-in perfumes. Did we lose something when we stopped noticing? The silence of the room deepens. Then, a new scent arrives. Faint, medicinal, carried through the ventilation stones near the ceiling. You sit up slightly. It smells like burnt nettles and sour lime. That's not part of your chamber blend. You rise and cross to the tiny clay vent. You can't see anything, but you know someone is moving nearby. Somewhere beyond the wall, another person is sending you a signal. You remember what the perfumer told you. Sour lime means warning. But a warning of what? No footsteps, no voices, just that sour smell. And then you realize you'd worn fig oil to dinner. Fig meant open ears. Fig meant you were listening. Someone had noticed. You don't sleep much that night. Not because of the heat or the late-night drumming echoing faintly from the far end of the palace, but because of that sharp, sour lime scent still curling in your nostrils like a ghost. It's faded now, barely traceable, but your mind won't let it go. Driven by a relentless curiosity, you rise early and decide not to wait for an invitation. You retrace your steps to the perfumer's chambers, determined to unravel the mystery. You expect resistance, but the guards barely glance at you. Either they've been instructed to let you through, or they've decided you're too interesting to stop. Inside, the perfumer, a master of her craft, is already awake, grinding something in a stone bowl. The smell is intense, cardamom and pine bark with an edge like flint. "You smelled the warning, didn't you?" she says without looking up. You nod. She finally glances your way. Then it's time you learned the language properly. You spend the day in the back chamber of her workshop, a long, narrow room filled with jars, dried herbs, oils, and the occasional truly unidentifiable object. One looks suspiciously like a fossilized bee. The perfumer pulls out a roll of aged cloth embroidered with symbols. Circles, triangles, crossed lines, each stitched in a different color. A scent lexicon. This sensory immersion in the world of scents keeps you engaged. "This isn't for nobles," she explains. "This was made for spies." You blink. She's not joking. It turns out that ancient Persia had a complex espionage network. Not just spies operating in the dark, but also informants, advisors, and, yes, olfactory messengers. Because perfume was everywhere, it made the perfect cover. A whiff of pine on a treaty document could mean approved, while clove oil in a sealed ring might warn of betrayal. The intrigue of this historical espionage technique is captivating, drawing you deeper into the narrative. Historians continue to debate the extent to which this practice was widespread. Some think the use of scented codes was limited to elite circles. Others argue that even lower-ranking scribes and messengers were trained in basic olfactory cues. A small but persistent group believes that entire letters were once composed in scent, readable only by those trained to decode them. The perfumer demonstrates how it works. She presents a piece of parchment coated with beeswax. "This is the base," she says. "We apply the scent in layers." She dabs 3 oils, bitter orange, fennel, and something musky you can't name, into tiny circles on the wax, each one barely visible. "Now watch." She takes a thin strip of cotton and presses it over the wax. When she lifts it away, the strip smells different. Warmer, smokier. You just read, "Delay the meeting. Not safe." The slow, delicate work. But once you know what to look, or rather sniff for, it's oddly clear. "You don't read scent," she says. "You feel it. You listen with your nose." This emphasis on the emotional aspect of scent communication makes you feel more connected to this unique form of language, enhancing your understanding and appreciation of it. Later, she hands you a test, 3 sealed pouches. "One of these means danger," she says. "One means wait. One means proceed." You sniff each carefully. One smells like clay and garlic. Nope, too aggressive. The second is marigold and mint. Soothing. The third was cinnamon with something sulfurous beneath it. "Third one," you say. She nods. "That would have saved your life." This kind of training wasn't for show. Many Persian diplomatic missions included at least one trained scent reader, someone whose job was to smell the surroundings before meetings, meals, and negotiations. A subtle shift in a room's aroma could signal a trap. An unfamiliar note in someone's robe may indicate a recent bribe. And it wasn't just about detection, it was projection, too. Some ambassadors wore custom blends that subtly encouraged trust or, at the very least, confusion. There's a disputed record of one envoy who wore a fragrance said to make his enemies feel vaguely like they'd forgotten something important. He never lost a negotiation. By mid-afternoon, your head is spinning, not from information, but from all the scent exposure. The perfumer hands you a bowl of vinegar water to reset your nose. It smells hilariously like salad. You sip gently and sit by the open window, where the breeze carries the neutral scent of baked stone and distant sheep. You can feel your brain reordering itself around this strange form of communication. It's not immediate. It's not binary. It's layered, slow, emotional, like poetry or dreams. You ask the perfumer whether there's a scent for, "I don't know." She grins and holds up a small bottle. You uncork it and inhale. Moss, honey, and the barest trace of seawater. Perfect. Before you leave, she gives you a sealed vial. "Don't open it until you need it," she says cryptically, her eyes twinkling with hidden knowledge. You start to ask what it means, but she waves you off. "You'll know, or you won't." That's part of the language, too. That evening, you walk back to your quarters with your pockets full of coated pouches, your mind full of scent maps, and your stomach, somehow, rumbling. You realize you haven't eaten all day, and the hunger gnaws at you, a reminder of the intensity of your training. A palace servant appears with a tray of simple food: flatbread, yogurt, olives, and a dish of spiced lentils. The tray smells ordinary, comforting, but tucked beneath the bread, just barely visible, is a tiny slip of ribbon. You lift it gently. It smells like cold metal and rosewater. You're not sure what that means, but you have a feeling it's not something dull or ordinary. Whatever that means, it's not dull. You're no longer just a visitor now. As you settle into your role, the palace's attitude towards you shifts. Servants bow with more deference, and the guards address you by your actual name, not the playful nickname they used before. More significantly, you begin to discern the intricate web of politics that was previously concealed from you, or perhaps you overlooked them. The royal court, it turns out, is a garden of carefully trimmed appearances, and everyone smells just a bit too intentional. Each courtier is a walking symbol: lavender for loyalty, almond for cleverness, neroli for ambition. These scents are not announced. They are worn. A whole library of intention swirls invisibly between silk sleeves and bejeweled collars. You can't unsmell it now. You're actively deciphering people through your nose, becoming a key player in the court's intricate game. Today, you're summoned to the divan room, a formal chamber used for royal council and big decisions. You feel a tremor of nerves as you cross the threshold. The carpet is plush and wine-colored. The pillars are carved with geometric spirals that make your eyes feel weirdly taller. At the center, under a canopy embroidered with phoenixes, the king reclines. Not quite seated, not quite lying down. Like someone trying to appear relaxed but not. The room is charged with a tension that is palpable yet invisible. You do so discreetly. The air smells like polished wood, saffron, and clove. You freeze slightly. You were told that clove oil, when strong, can mean one thing: betrayal. Historians still argue whether the ancient Persian court used perfume to test loyalty, or whether this was just a poetic exaggeration by later scribes trying to romanticize politics. But you're starting to believe it. If it wasn't official, it was understood. The king gestures toward a figure kneeling nearby, an envoy from one of the eastern provinces. His robes are elegant but unadorned. His face is unreadable. "I need your nose," the king says, his tone serious, his half-smile not reaching his eyes. What does he bring? Your role in the king's decision-making process is clear, and your influence is palpable. It's not a joke. You approach slowly. The envoy doesn't flinch. He's used to this. You bow slightly, then breathe in. The man's scent is peculiar layers of acacia, walnut oil, and a faint note of ink. But underneath, something raw. Is that garlic again? You try not to wrinkle your nose. Garlic oil in this setting is either a terrible mistake or a deliberate choice. A signal. A warning. Once you remember, you straighten and say the safest thing you can think of. His scent suggests he's been on a long road, and he doesn't wish to be here. The king laughs softly. Neither do I. There's a tension break. Everyone chuckles, but it's not a light-hearted moment. It's a calculated move, a signal that the envoy's potential betrayal does not threaten the king. You're not sure whether you've passed a test or merely survived one, but you're starting to understand the power of perception in this court. Later, your perfumer mentor pulls you aside. "Garlic is fear," she whispers. "Used to be a shame centuries ago, but meanings change. Of course they do. Like words, like fashion, like people." That evening, you're invited to a private gathering in the perfumer's quarter of the palace. This secluded area, away from the central court, is where the court's most skilled perfumers work their magic. It's quieter here, darker, and more labyrinthine than laid out. Small rooms and corridors open onto courtyards filled with water basins and flower beds. You follow flickering lanterns until you reach a low room lit entirely by perfume braziers. Smoke curls like silk ribbons in the air. They've gathered to do something rare tonight: recreate a scent that no longer exists. The blend is called Bamdad Daria, roughly, Morning by the Sea. No written record of its ingredients has been found to survive. Just a line in a poem scratched into the margins of a 9th century manuscript. She entered, and the room turned to see wind and cardamom. Historians still debate who she was. Some say a queen who died young. Others claim it was metaphorical, a moment of inspiration given scent. Tonight, the perfumers will try to guess what that felt like. You sit on a cushion, watching as tiny vials are opened, oils are stirred, and powders are warmed. It's the olfactory equivalent of jazz, each contributor improvising, reacting, adjusting. The room fills slowly with something briny and sweet, with a citrus edge and a sleepy whisper of sandalwood. They pass you a silk fan, and you wave it toward your face. You're on a beach. Not your beach, asterisk their asterisk beach. The sand is darker, the sky wider. Somewhere, fish are being dried in the sun. A child laughs. A woman rinses her hair in a copper basin. You smell that too. The scent was never about a person. It was about a memory. You close your eyes. When you open them, the perfumer is holding another bottle toward you. Smell this, she says. You do. It's bitter and floral and strange. What is it? A guess, she says. That's what most of this is. And she's right. The scent, more than any other medium, is guesswork dressed in ritual. Every bottle holds someone's memory, or someone's hope. Whether or not it makes sense to the next person doesn't matter. That night, you dream of cardamom and crashing waves. When you wake, your hair smells like cedar and oil. No one else notices, but you do, because now you're part of the code. As you delve deeper into the world of Persian scents, it's akin to unraveling a captivating mystery. This is a language that doesn't speak to your ears but to your skin and memories. Each new aroma is like a precious secret whispered just for you. A delicate, invisible thread that connects you to centuries of ritual, emotion, and nuanced communication. Today, you're invited to observe a different kind of message, the scent of mourning. Yes, even grief in ancient Persia had its perfume code, and it was just as carefully composed and meaningful as any diplomatic message or courtly flirtation. You wander through the quieter, older quarters of the city where funeral rites are quietly unfolding. The atmosphere here is delicate but charged, an invisible heaviness that settles on your chest, softened by the fragrant air. The scent is thick with myrrh and frankincense, but not in the overpowering way you might expect at a funeral today. Instead, the smell is muted and gentle, like a soft, comforting blanket laid over sorrow. You meet a woman sitting quietly by a water basin. Her black veil is edged with tiny sprigs of bitter orange blossom, woven so carefully it almost seems like a crown. She tells you that close relatives traditionally wore this particular scent during mourning periods. It was more than a decoration. It signaled their availability for support, their shared sorrow, and their respect for the departed. Wearing it was a silent message to the community. I am here, grieving with you. Historians still debate the extent to which these scent customs were widespread. Some suggest that these fragrant rituals were adopted from neighboring cultures and then uniquely adapted by Persians. Others believe that these traditions were distinctly Persian, embedded in their belief systems and social codes from the very beginning. The truth, as usual, is probably somewhere in the middle, an ever-shifting mix of borrowed ideas and native invention. You recall the perfumer you met earlier, who added a surprising detail. Some scents were designed not just to comfort the living, but to mask the smell of death itself, which could be distressing or considered impure. Others were thought to attract benevolent spirits or protect the soul of the departed on its journey. This revelation adds another layer of intrigue to the already fascinating world of Persian scents. She tells you about one rare perfume made from crushed violet petals, a few strands of saffron, and a secret blend of herbs. This blend, carefully guarded and passed down through generations, was believed to help the soul find peace, to guide it gently away from the mortal world. The specific herbs used in this blend were chosen for their spiritual significance and their believed ability to aid in the transition from life to death. You listen, fascinated, imagining a room lit by oil lamps and filled with whispers where these secret ceremonies were held. The scent was more than smell. It was a ritual, a prayer, a bridge between worlds. Later, you observe how mourners gently anoint each other with these oils, sharing their grief not with words, but through touch and aroma. The gesture is intimate and deeply human, a way to say, I am with you, when words might fail. It reminds you of other rituals you've heard of, such as the anointing of the sick in Christian traditions or the use of incense in Buddhist ceremonies, where scent creates a quiet community of shared feelings. You come to realize that grief in ancient Persia wasn't just a personal sorrow. It was a shared experience, intricately woven into daily life and ceremony with fragrance as a vital element. This understanding fosters a sense of connection and empathy with the ancient Persians and their cultural practices. As the sun begins to set, you are led to a quiet garden tucked away behind a high wall. Here, night-blooming jasmine fills the air with its delicate scent. You lie back on a cool stone bench and close your eyes, feeling a deep connection to the ancient Persians and their use of fragrance in morning rituals. Despite the heavy weight of loss that lingers in the air, the tranquility of the garden and the soothing scent of the jasmine combine to create a serene atmosphere. This setting offers a moment of respite from the topic of mourning, allowing you to feel calm and at peace. You breathe deeply, feeling the night air cool on your skin, carrying stories as old as the Persian Empire itself. The jasmine mingles with the faint aroma of wet earth, crushed herbs like basil and thyme, and distant fires burning fragrant woods. It's a scent that speaks of life continuing, of renewal after sorrow. You think about the power of perfume, not just as a way to send secret messages or to charm and deceive, but as a way to hold space for the feelings that words cannot express. It's a language of emotion, memory, and presence. That could be the true magic of these ancient Persian perfumes. Not just what they say, but what they help us feel. You open your eyes and notice a small vial on the bench beside you. The label is faded, but the words are still legible. For comfort in times of loss. You uncork it gently and inhale. The scent is soft and warm, honeyed rose, a hint of sandalwood, and something familiar, like the embrace of an old friend. You smile softly, feeling the quiet strength of this fragile bottle. You tuck it safely in your pocket, knowing that sometimes the most powerful messages are those sent not to others but to yourself. And as the jasmine blooms around you, you drift towards sleep, wrapped in the tender arms of scent and memory. You awaken gently, still carrying a faint trace of jasmine from the previous night's quiet garden. The delicate fragrance seems to linger in the air around you, wrapping you in a soft, invisible embrace as you prepare for another day immersed in the fragrant secrets of ancient Persia. The palace feels different now, almost alive with invisible messages floating just beneath the surface, waiting to be discovered by those who genuinely know how to listen. This is a land where perfumery is not just an art but a language. This tradition dates back to the ancient Persian Empire, where scent was a sophisticated system of coded messages used in royal courts, diplomatic missions, and even in personal relationships. Today, you step into the fragrant laboratory, nestled deep within the palace walls. A cool, dimly lit room filled with rows of alabaster jars, copper distillers, and delicate glass vessels that shimmer softly in the filtered light. The air here is rich with the mingling scents of rose, saffron, jasmine, and countless other secret ingredients that have been collected and crafted over centuries. It is a place of both art and mystery, where fragrance is transformed into a language that only a few can decipher, leaving you intrigued by the secrets it holds. The master perfumer, Shiren, welcomes you with a calm smile. Her hands move with practiced grace, measuring and blending oils with the precision of a seasoned artist. She explains how, far beyond simple pleasure, perfume in Persia was a sophisticated system of coded messages, an aromatic language woven from the delicate threads of scent. Each note in a perfume blend served as a word, each combination a sentence meant for those who understood the intricate alphabet of scents. As she adds a drop of rose oil, she tells you that it represents love and beauty, a symbol well known in their fragrant code. Saffron follows, rare and warm, carrying connotations of wealth and status. Jasmine adds purity and grace, while musk signals courage and protection. These notes are carefully layered, much like the intricate tapestries adorning the palace walls, with each element chosen to convey not only meaning but also mood and nuance. You wonder about the nature of this secret language. Historians still debate whether these perfume codes were standardized across the vast Persian Empire or if each royal court or region developed its dialect of scent. Some argue that perfume messaging was more like poetry, fluid, artistic, and open to interpretation, while others suggest there were specific recipes, akin to words in a dictionary, carrying agreed-upon meanings whispered through generations. The thought of secret lovers exchanging coded bouquets or spies slipping messages hidden as incense wafting through palace corridors tickles your imagination. How many stories must have unfolded in this fragrant dialogue, carried silently on the air? Shiren hands you a small vial containing her latest blend and challenges you to decipher the message. You inhale slowly. First, a bold rush of warm musk, then the sweet softness of rose petals, and beneath it all, a spicy flicker of cinnamon mingled with a delicate honeyed undertone. As you analyze each note, you begin to understand the message it conveys. The musk represents courage and protection. The rose petals signify love and beauty, and the cinnamon and honey undertones suggest warmth and comfort. It feels like a brave friend offering support and warmth, a silent pledge of loyalty. Exactly, Shiren nods approvingly. It's a reassurance wrapped in fragrance. You marvel at the power of scent, something so fleeting and intangible yet capable of conveying such complex emotion. Shiren reveals ancient scrolls worn thin by time, detailing recipes paired with cryptic symbols representing the meanings behind each blend. Some recipes denote joy or sorrow, readiness for battle, or secret invitations, each sent a carefully crafted sentence in this olfactory language, leaving you impressed by the complexity of this art form. Inspired, you try your hand at blending your secret scent. You carefully select the ingredients, each one chosen for its unique meaning and the emotion it represents. At first, your attempts are clumsy, mixtures too sharp, too faint, or awkwardly unbalanced. One concoction is so pungent it might have caused a palace scandal had it ever left the lab. You nearly set off the palace cats, known for their sensitive noses, into a dramatic protest. But with Shiren's gentle guidance, you begin to understand the delicate balance between boldness and subtlety, strength and softness. The heart of perfume messaging lies in its nuance, the ability to say much without saying anything at all. And as you finally create a blend that captures the essence of your emotions, you realize the true artistry and complexity of perfumery. The blend is a harmonious symphony of scents, each note complementing the other to create a unique and personal fragrance. Surrounded by centuries of fragrant wisdom, you feel the pulse of history. Persian perfume was never a mere luxury. It was a vital tool for communication, diplomacy, and connection. A secret language spoken without words, echoing the voices of the past. This historical significance of Persian perfume makes you feel deeply connected to the past. Before leaving, Shiren presses a small vial of your blend into your hand. The scent lingers on your fingers, a tentative but earnest promise bottled in fragrance. As you walk back through the palace halls, you realize you are carrying more than just a vial. You have a new understanding of the subtle power woven into the scents drifting invisibly through the air, and a secret message meant only for you. As you, a trusted courtier, carry the vial from the perfumer's lab, the palace corridors echo softly beneath your footsteps. The faint fragrance reminds you of the secret languages whispered in the breeze. It's almost as if the stones themselves remember the delicate sense of long-forgotten conversations, a scented tapestry woven into the very fabric of the empire's history. You pause for a moment to let the quiet settle, breathing in slowly, and the jasmine and musk mingle gently with the warm stone walls around you. As you wander deeper into the heart of the city, you can't help but notice the subtle ways perfume shaped daily life beyond the palace. Persian bazaars thrived not only on spices and silks but also on the craft of fragrance. Vendors sold oils and incense in tiny, intricately carved bottles that resembled treasure chests, each scent carefully crafted to evoke a particular mood or memory. Imagine the delight of choosing a perfume that whispered not just your status but your intentions for the day, an aromatic mood ring for an ancient time. The perfume was so essential that even clothes were scented, and some fabrics were infused with delicate oils to preserve the aroma long after the wearer left. Some historians tell a charming story about a particularly persuasive diplomat who carried an assortment of perfumes, switching scents to flatter the mood of each new political encounter. A kind of olfactory charm offensive. Historians still argue whether this was a standard practice or more of an exceptional theatrical flair. Either way, the idea of diplomacy carried on the wings of scent adds a fascinating layer to the political chess games of ancient Persia. Beyond its social and political aspects, perfume also had a practical side. The Persian climate, which is hot and dry in many regions, made fragrance a welcome relief, not just for humans but also for ceremonial purposes. Incense burned in homes and temples wasn't merely decorative. It was believed to cleanse the air and protect against illness. A fragrant shield in a world before germ theory. The art of making perfumes was so revered that perfumers were often considered alchemists, their craft mingling science, art, and a touch of magic. One surprising note is that many ingredients came from far-flung corners of the empire and beyond, connected by the famous silk routes. These ancient trade routes, which connected the East and West, facilitated the exchange of goods, ideas, and culture. The coveted frankincense and myrrh traveled thousands of miles to reach Persian markets, each import adding a layer of exotic allure and complexity to the perfume blends. This intricate network of trade made perfume a symbol not only of beauty but of empire-wide connectivity, a fragrant thread linking distant cultures and peoples. As you stroll past the gardens where roses bloom in neat rows, you can almost hear the whispers of poets who wrote odes to the scent of flowers, describing perfume as a messenger of the soul. You imagine the soft rustling of silk garments, the flicker of lantern light, and the delicate scent drifting like a secret sigh across the twilight. These scents were more than mere adornment. They were a language of longing, greeting, and sometimes farewell. And while the Persian Empire's perfume culture was rich and complex, it wasn't without its mysteries. Scholars still debate the exact extent to which the coded perfume language was widespread. Some argue that it was the exclusive domain of royalty and courtiers, a sophisticated form of communication that added an extra layer of intrigue to their interactions. Others believe that it was something that trickled down into everyday life among merchants and citizens, a subtle yet powerful tool for social interaction. Much of what we know comes from poetic exaggeration or limited elite sources, leaving room for romantic imagination and interpretation. Whatever the truth, it's clear that scent held a special place in the ancient Persian world, a delicate yet potent thread connecting people across distance and time, carrying messages both spoken and silent. And as you inhale the faint traces of your secret blend lingering on your skin, you feel more connected than ever to this fragrant past. As the evening gently envelopes the ancient Persian city, the air becomes cooler and richer with the enchanting scents of blossoming flowers and freshly watered earth. You are irresistibly drawn to the grand royal gardens, those renowned paradises crafted not just for the eyes but especially for the nose. These gardens, meticulously planned like living masterpieces, where every plant, every flower, every breeze carries a message whispered in fragrance, are a sensory delight, a sight to behold. The gentle rustling of leaves, the soft caress of the evening breeze, and the sweet scent of flowers create a tranquil and immersive experience. The Persian gardens, often called paradisa, the origin of our word paradise, were divided into 4 orderly quadrants, symbolizing cosmic harmony. Water channels crisscrossed the paths, their gentle splashes carrying and refreshing scents, turning each stroll into a scented symphony. You can almost hear the soft splash of fountains and the murmuring of nearby streams, their rhythms soothing and endless, like a whispered lullaby. Historians still debate exactly how these gardens influenced the Renaissance gardens of Europe centuries later, but their legacy lives on in every carefully tended flowerbed and fragrant pathway. Strolling along the shaded walkways, you notice the subtle but deliberate placement of plants. Fragrant herbs like thyme and mint release their cooling aromas underfoot, while bushes of rose and jasmine nod gently in the evening breeze. Each scent, each bloom, was chosen not only for its beauty but for its meaning. Imagine a secret code embedded in the garden itself. Lovers exchanging messages by brushing fingers against particular flowers or carrying sprigs of specific herbs. It was a tactile, fragrant language, one that only those in the know could fully understand. The Persian poets, enamored by the gardens and their scents, wove their verses with intricate metaphors. Perfume was not merely a physical presence but a symbol of yearning, patience, and unspoken love. These poets' words were like fragrant threads intricately woven through the culture, inviting listeners to decipher the emotions behind the imagery. It's genuinely fascinating to ponder how scent and poetry intertwined, each enhancing the other's influence. Perfume wasn't reserved only for pleasure or love. It played a vital role in religious rituals as well. Temples filled with the smoke of burning incense created a sacred atmosphere, purifying both the space and the mind. The fragrances, with their spiritual significance, were believed to bridge the mortal and divine, adding an invisible but deeply felt layer to worship. The scent of incense, rising in delicate spirals, carries prayers and hopes to the heavens, creating a profoundly spiritual and reverent atmosphere. Beyond the gardens and temples, the Persian Empire's extensive trade networks played a pivotal role in spreading perfume knowledge far and wide. Ingredients like frankincense, myrrh, and exotic spices traversed thousands of miles along the silk routes, enriching the Persian perfume palette with aromas from Arabia, India, and beyond. This exchange of scents was more than just commerce. It was a profound cultural exchange, a fragrant dialogue between distant lands that enriched the empire's cultural fabric with a rich tapestry of scents and traditions. You might smile at the thought that something so fleeting and intangible as scent could weave such strong ties between people and places. The empire's success wasn't just about armies or gold, but also the subtle diplomacy of fragrance. The perfume was a universal language, an invisible thread linking traders, poets, lovers, and priests alike, fostering understanding and connection. As the sun dips below the horizon, the garden's fragrances deepen and blend with the cool evening air. You inhale slowly, savoring the mingling scents of rose, cedarwood, and the soft sweetness of almond blossoms. The cypress trees sway gently, and the stars begin to peek through the dusk, twinkling like scattered jewels overhead. In this peaceful moment, you feel deeply connected to the fragrant past, to the secret messages carried on the breeze, and to the timeless human desire to communicate beyond words. The perfume language of ancient Persia was a delicate art, a whispered conversation carried softly through gardens, palaces, and hearts alike, and you are a part of this rich history. As you prepare to leave the garden, the scent lingers on your skin, a gentle reminder that even the faintest whisper of fragrance can hold a world of meaning, leaving a lasting impression of the beauty and culture of ancient Persia. As the night deepens, you find yourself reflecting on how perfume and scent shaped not only private moments but also public ceremonies and festivals in ancient Persia. These grand events were not just about spectacle. They were immersive experiences where fragrance played a vital role in setting mood, marking time, and even expressing social hierarchy. Picture a bustling royal festival, lanterns flickering against the night sky, the air thick with the mingled aromas of sandalwood rose and the faint spice of saffron. The perfume was carefully deployed to enhance the senses, inviting participants to lose themselves in the celebration. Attendants might sprinkle fragrant waters over guests as a gesture of welcome, a soothing ritual to calm nerves and sharpen focus. You can almost hear the soft splash of these scented waters and imagine the polite smiles and relaxed laughter they inspired. Historians still debate how much of this was everyday practice versus ceremonial grandeur, but there is no doubt that scent added an extra layer of meaning to social interactions. It was not just about the pleasant aroma, but also about the social status and hierarchy it represented, further enriching the cultural experience. One particularly quirky detail is the use of perfumed smoke signals during festivals held in open spaces or across distances. Incense burners were lit in specific patterns, their fragrant smoke drifting up and carrying messages to those watching from afar, a kind of aromatic semaphore. This practice, while still debated among scholars, presents a charming portrayal of creativity. The Persians used scent not only as an art form but also as a means of communication, a unique and innovative use of fragrance in their cultural practices. The layering of scents was an art form in itself, a captivating process where perfumers skillfully blended floral, woody, and spicy notes to craft unique combinations for different occasions. Imagine the meticulous care taken to design a fragrance that suited a wedding ceremony differently from a religious ritual or a royal procession. The choice of scent was as deliberate as the clothes worn or the music played, all part of a coordinated sensory experience meant to impress and comfort. This process, filled with the anticipation of creating a perfect blend, must have been a fascinating journey for the perfumers and a sensory delight for the participants. These perfumes were crafted from a combination of local and imported ingredients, each with its symbolic meaning. Rose symbolized love and beauty, myrrh was linked to purification and protection, and saffron hinted at wealth and power. The knowledge of these meanings allowed Persians to read the perfumes others wore or burned, adding a layer of subtle conversation beneath the festivities. On a practical level, perfume was a clever solution to combat the challenges of outdoor gatherings in the warm Persian climate. Scents not only masked less pleasant odors, but also created an atmosphere of freshness, making long ceremonies more bearable and undoubtedly more enjoyable. The ancient Persians had ingeniously mastered the art of combining style with comfort, delighting the senses while meeting practical needs. The foresight and ingenuity of the ancient Persians in using perfume to enhance the outdoor experience are truly commendable and make us appreciate their cultural sophistication. Thinking about these lively celebrations, it's easy to imagine yourself amid the crowd, carried on the currents of scent and sound, feeling part of a culture that celebrated beauty in all its forms. The delicate perfume messages floated invisibly, touching everyone present and uniting them in a shared sensory experience, a connection that transcends time and culture. This shared sensory experience, facilitated by the use of perfume, not only united the participants of the ancient Persian festivals but also connected us, the modern readers, to their culture and traditions. And as the festival fires burn low and the scented smoke fades into the night sky, you feel the timeless magic of these fragrant moments, an artful blend of history, culture, and human connection. The ancient Persian tradition of perfume was not without its subtle intrigues and secret codes. You might find it surprising, but some historians suggest that perfume was occasionally used as a discreet tool in espionage and court politics. Imagine a shadowy corridor in a palace, where courtiers exchanged delicate vials, each scent carefully chosen to signal loyalty, warn of danger, or request assistance, all without uttering a single word. These aromatic messages were a kind of invisible dialogue, a fragrant language designed to bypass the ears and eyes yet speak directly to those in the know. The complexity of these aromatic codes could be astonishing. Different blends, concentrations, or even the timing of when a fragrance was applied might carry distinct meanings. For example, a hint of saffron mixed with rose might signal trustworthiness, while an undercurrent of myrrh could hint at caution or secrecy. Some scholars speculate that courtiers carried multiple small bottles to layer scents as needed, like changing uniforms for different covert conversations. Historians still debate whether this was a common practice or the result of rare, dramatic incidents, but the very possibility adds a thrilling layer to the perfume story. One amusing anecdote involves a certain nobleman who supposedly confused an urgent warning scent with his favorite rose perfume, leading to a diplomatic mishap that has been retold with gentle laughter through the ages. Imagine the chaos caused by a message lost in translation, a fragrant all-clear misread as a danger alert, or vice versa. It's a reminder that even the most refined systems can be compromised by human error, and that scent, as delicate as it's, can sometimes be misinterpreted or misunderstood. The whole affair sounds like a scene from a fragrant spy novel, with mysterious perfumes replacing coded letters and secret knock-ins. Beyond espionage, perfumes were also carefully regulated commodities, with royal decrees controlling their production, trade, and distribution. This official oversight ensured quality and exclusivity but also turned perfume into a status symbol. Only the elite could afford the finest oils and rarest ingredients, and wearing the wrong scent in the wrong place could be a social faux pas or even a political statement. You can almost hear the hushed gossip in palace corridors about who dared to flaunt an unauthorized fragrance or which noble's perfumer created a scent so enchanting it caused jealousy among peers. The elite's obsession with perfume also spurred technological innovation. Persian perfumers developed advanced distillation techniques, pioneering methods to extract more potent and long-lasting scents from flowers, herbs, and resins. These innovations not only improved the perfume itself but also influenced broader scientific fields, laying the groundwork for early chemistry. The distillation apparatus became more sophisticated, enabling the production of purer essences and complex blends. These advancements spread along trade routes, influencing perfumery traditions far beyond Persia's borders, from the Arab world to India and eventually Europe. It's remarkable how a pursuit as seemingly delicate and aesthetic as perfume led to tangible advances in craftsmanship and science, reminding us that beauty and utility often walk hand in hand. You might chuckle to think that behind those soft floral notes was a world of secret codes, political intrigue, and cutting-edge technology. As you contemplate these fragrant intrigues, you realize that perfume in ancient Persia was much more than a pleasant accessory. It was a complex language, a tool of power, and a subtle art form woven through every level of society. The very act of choosing a scent was a statement of identity and influence, a fragrant thread connecting personal desire to public display. And though the scents themselves have long since faded, the stories and secrets they carried still perfume the pages of history, inviting us to breathe deeply and imagine the whispers carried on the winds of time. As your journey through the fragrant world of ancient Persia draws near its end, you find yourself in a tranquil chamber. It's a serene space filled with the soft glow of oil lamps and the faintest hint of sandalwood lingering in the air. Here, in this peaceful sanctuary, the story of perfume unfolds not just as a tale of scents and secrets, but as a gentle reminder of how deeply human culture and nature intertwine. You realize that the ancient Persians didn't just wear perfume. They lived it, breathed it, and wove it into the very fabric of their existence. The crafting of perfume was a sacred art, passed down through generations with meticulous care and attention to detail. Imagine the skilled hands of a perfumer gently crushing petals, blending oils, and patiently distilling essences in delicate glass vessels. The process, a symphony of senses, required patience, intuition, and a deep understanding of plants and minerals. It engaged all senses, the softness of petals, the shimmering clarity of liquids, the rich warmth of scents, creating a captivating multisensory experience that transcended the mere act of making fragrance. Furthermore, the use of perfume in Persia was deeply intertwined with ideas about the soul, health, and well-being. Aromas were believed to influence the spirit, calm the mind, and even heal the body. For instance, the delicate scent of rose oil was thought to soothe sadness, while the rich aroma of frankincense was used in rituals to purify both space and spirit. This holistic view of scent reflects a timeless human desire, to find comfort and meaning in the subtle sensations around us, offering a soothing balm in times of need. As you settle into this calm space, it's easy to appreciate how the ancient Persian perfume tradition, a timeless legacy, was both intimate and expansive, a personal luxury and a cultural treasure. It connected people across social ranks and geographic distances, linking palace intrigues, garden strolls, and bustling market stalls in a fragrant web of life. You can almost feel the gentle breeze carrying these scented stories across centuries, inviting you to pause, breathe, and listen. And now, as you prepare to drift off, let the lingering fragrance of history's softest secrets soothe you. Imagine the warm glow of Persian lamps fading into twilight, the gentle rustle of garden leaves outside your window, and the quiet hum of an ancient world slowly breathing to rest. This is your moment to immerse yourself in the ancient Persian perfume culture and allow it to guide you into a peaceful sleep. Let yourself be carried away by these delicate scents, gently slipping from the waking world into a peaceful sleep. Now, as you lie back and close your eyes, imagine the ancient Persian gardens, with their meticulously arranged blossoms and soothing fountains stretching endlessly beneath a velvet sky. Each blossom releases its last whisper of fragrance into the cool night air. The soft scents of rose, jasmine, and sandalwood mingle with the quiet rustling of leaves, creating a calm lullaby just for you. There's no hurry here, only the gentle passage of time, measured in breaths and whispers. Let the memory of those fragrant gardens settle softly in your mind, a soothing presence that lingers like a tender embrace. The secrets of perfume are like quiet conversations held beneath the stars, fragile yet enduring, inviting you to rest and dream. You've traveled through a world where scent was not just a language but a profound expression of art and comfort, where every note told a story as delicate as the petals themselves. Now, let the last trails of fragrance guide you deeper into sleep, carrying you away on gentle breezes to a place of peace and renewal. The world outside fades, leaving only the soft glow of memory and the hush of night. Sleep well, surrounded by the subtle magic of ancient perfumes, and wake refreshed when morning comes.